Morning, my name is Francisco Wong, and I'm from the Hong Kong Institute of Education. So today my topic is about convergences and divergences in teaching perception and practice of grammar teaching in secondary schools in Hong Kong. Well, for the outline of my research, I'm going to talk more about the background, objectives, research questions, and the framework and approach, and followed by the methodologies and how to collect the data, and some of the findings presentation, and with some discussions of the findings, and some of the pedagogical implications implied in the whole research, and I'm going to make a summary and some of the limitations. Well, in Hong Kong from year 2009, it has been undergoing a tremendous change in the current new structure of the education system, especially the senior one. Well, the senior one is in pink here, and they have secondary 4, 5, and 6, and these are the senior secondary. And after the students have taken secondary 6, and they will go through a 4-year undergraduate degree. But prior to the days before year 2009, they have to take a public examination, and then they go to the A levels, and then they have the 3-year undergraduate degree program. And so it has been changing a lot. Well, what's inside the new features in the Hong Kong Diploma on Secondary Education is that they focus on the 4 skills, of course, and they have much of the emphasis on the vocabulary item that they have developed over these 3 years. And they have to know about different genre, the text types, and the forms and functions, which are very important, especially the form and how to apply it in the sentences. Well, the key objective is that they have to enhance the students' language proficiency, and this is very important. I mean, for their further study and work and later development. And besides that, they have to develop the kind of knowledge, skills, and values and attitude, so that they can promote the lifelong learning. Well, let's focus on the topic of the convergences and divergences in using grammar learning and teaching. Because they have to focus on the grammar items and the communicative functions. So grammar items are quite a range of forms that they have to develop so that they can perform the communicative function in their senior secondary level in these 3 years. And some of the items is, in the key stage 3 should be consolidated and extended, especially to a higher level of capacities. And these are all implemented, implied in the EDB curriculum and assessment guide. Well, the research objective is that I want to explore more about our teaching staff, the teachers' beliefs, and their attitude toward the role of grammar in this new structure, NSS structure, and look at what they think about grammar is and how should it be implemented in this NSS curriculum. And then to find out how teachers approach in their grammar teaching in the real classrooms, and later to inform the recent curriculum changes in new senior secondary school. While giving some advice about some of the difficulties and some of the strengths that they implement the whole curriculum. So my research questions are, so what are the beliefs, what beliefs about grammar are held by a representative, a sample size of over 100 Hong Kong teachers? And how do the teachers approach the teaching of grammar in their in the classrooms? And then I have to find out the relationship between the teachers' teaching beliefs in the pedagogy and the grammar teaching practice in the NSS classroom. So the overall research framework is that it's based on an exploratory and interpretive paradigm. And this paradigm has been focused on the positivists and the interpretive and the critical one. So in this triangulation, we have to find out the right approach to conceive what grammar is. So in Quadswell, 1998, so it talks about the complex narrative that takes the reader into multiple dimensions of a problem, and then they space it in all complexity. So this complexity is implied in finding out about the positivists, what positivists think about, and interpretive, where some of the meaning and some of the factual data, and we have to be critical about the overall approach. And so the best strategies we have to adopt is naturalistic inquiry, and then we have to use the mixed method, the quantitative and qualitative approach, so that some of the description of teacher's context, the teaching context, the thoughts and actions can be found out. So overall, in the research methodology, in the present study, I will use the quantitative and qualitative one, and I've decided 25 items in the questionnaire, and 5-point Likert scale altitude scale of ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree. And then I have find a focus group of 6 teaching staff, the teachers in the interviews, and find out more about in the lesson through the observation. Well, in the initial study for the findings over the quantitative method is that I find 123 ESL teachers, and they are L2 learners and L2 teachers as well, teaching senior secondary 1 to 3. And the focus of the banding, band 1, which is a top band students, and I have find out about 42 responding. Is about 34%, and band 2, 29 responding, is about 24%, and band 3, which is the a lower banding school, 42, about 34%. So the range of teaching experience in the English teachers, just about 40% they have 1 to 5 years of teaching experience, and 6 to 10 years of experience they have 40 people with 32%. For 16 or above years of teaching experience, and they have 12. It's about getting near to 10%. So we have the widespread of teachers. They have lots of teaching experience. And for the female, because lots of teachers are female, and they have about 63%, and male they have 47. Well, for the professional training, they have the first or language-related degree. For example, the master's degree majored in English language or applied linguistics. They have the first degree is over 97%. Whereas for those, they have the professional training, like the postgraduate diploma in education and majored in English, and they have getting nearly 85%. Well, I've designed 25 items in the questionnaire. So for the first one, it's about the role. I want to find out more about the role of grammar instructions. Is that important in the classroom? For example, whether students can learn grammar through the exposure to language in natural use, not only restricted to classrooms, but also in the real life communicative function. And students learn grammar under teacher's direct instruction in the classroom, and whether these direct instructions in grammar rules is important or not, the students are learned to communicate effectively. And the approaches and how the teachers approach their grammar teaching in the real classroom. The grammar should grammar be taught by direct explanation of rules and meaning? Should they just practice it expressively with rules and meaning? And should grammar be taught by practicing the specific structures while they actually have to use it in the writing? And is it suitable or best for foreign language teacher to directly explain grammatical rules so that they can get a hold of how to use the language? And the other items, just like direct explanation of grammar, is that will leave the student feeling insecure when using English, and so on. So the third part is about the explorations of the grammar learning practice in the classrooms. So some of the questions are, grammar practice or exercise, do they really help improve the learner's grammatical performance? And whether the drilling is a necessary part of learning process, and is that whether just drilling alone is ineffective, as it is not based on context, as grammar practice must be within a communicative function, whether they agree or not. And like, can students improve the grammatical accuracy through the frequent practice of the intended structures? So the fourth part is how they treat the error, and how they conceive what an error is. And so whether the teacher's grammatical correction, whether it is helping learners or not, or the grammatical correctness is most important. And some of the form focus correction, like they have to focus some of the language items, grammatical items, whether it helps students to improve their grammatical performance or not, and whether students should be corrected when they make spoken or written grammatical errors to avoid imperfect learning. So these are all very important, especially the students have to make progress, especially in their writing. When in their writing, they face lots of grammatical correctness by the teacher. So the part 2 is some of the personal information, just stated before. Well, in the next sections, there is the qualitative methods, and some of the instruments for collecting data is through the lesson observation, and they have the pre and post lesson observation, and then they have some of the background interviews, like asking what their background and the professional training related to the grammar teaching, and the beliefs about grammar and grammar teaching. I have to dig into their real belief, whether they really conceive grammar as an important tool and instrument for them to be accurate and to be fluent in all the 4 skills, and the way to carry out grammar teaching and the experience of grammar instructions in their real classrooms and the samples from the lesson. And I have to make use of some of the data through the full transcriptions in the lesson observation. The open coding is adopted, and category codes is used in the level, and the observation data through the thematic episodes, like some of the themes, grammar presentation, the use of grammatical terminology, grammar teaching and learning practice, and error correction. So presented data is also important, and I will analyze it in the 4 aspects with respect to the central topic of teachers' beliefs and practices about the role of grammar teaching, grammar instruction, the approaches, the grammar learning practices, and the treatment of errors. Well, for some of the findings, I have collected 123 respondents, and they all are currently teaching in the senior secondary school. And the first research question is about the beliefs. What are the beliefs of grammar held by the 123 representatives Hong Kong teacher? So for the initial finding, well, for item A, students can learn grammar through exposure to language and natural use. They have 68%. They believe grammar is quite important, and 71% that students should learn grammar through teachers' guidance or their instructions, and 76% say that the direct instructions in grammar use is important for the communicative use. And whereas 27% is only, vote for the direct instructions in the grammar use. They think it's not necessary for students to learn communicatively. And 37% they strongly agree to the statement that the rules of knowledge of the language doesn't guarantee the ability to use the language effectively. And the next one is about the approaches of the grammar teaching. And some of the prominent figure, the dominant figure is 82%. They think grammar should be taught by a direct explanation of rules and meanings, and 81% that the grammar should be taught by practicing the structure. And also some of the data, like my students prefer to learn grammar by working on English tasks because they think English tasks is important for the drill and practice to enhance their grammatical competence. And 86% also go for grammar experts taught through their work, which focus on communicating meaning, communicative use. So for the research question 2, I have to find out the way that teachers support the teaching of grammar in the NSS classroom. And initially, I find out that during grammar practice is a necessary part for the learning process. It's nearly 70% that they think about grammar practice is important, and 85% that they think about through the frequent practice of grammatical structures is important to enhance the grammar accuracy. And also 90% here, they think during the activities should be, equally developed in the class time. So in the fourth part, there's the error treatment. And so some of the dominant figures is that the 95% they think grammatical correctness is the most important criteria, so that language performance can be judged. And the form-focused correction helps students to improve their grammatical performance, and they have 89%. And also 87% that the role the teacher should correct student speaking errors in the grammar when they cause the difficulty in understanding, communicating the meaning. So for research question 3, and the relationship between the teacher's teaching beliefs and their grammar teaching practice is through some this table, like the 6 focus groups teachers. Some of them they think communications is much more important in the role of grammar, and I feel that they agree the accuracy should be important. And for the approaches, they will use either or both form and meaning or focus instruction. And for the grammar learning practice, they use both direct and explicit, and some of them use inductive and systematic grammar instructions. For the error correction, they think the explicit correction by teachers and detail marking is important, whereas some of those focus on the autonomous skills that the students should correct themselves and focus on the focus marking. Well, some of the discussions can be drawn from these findings. Some of the teachers use both inductive and deductive approach in the teaching of grammar. They try to introduce the grammar structure first, and then they have to find out the rules. And whereas some of those they will use the example first, and then they have to find out the rules as well, and vice versa. So some of the teachers will use the direct and explicit grammar teaching because some of them feel insecure when they use other approach. Focus on meanings is important, and focus on form also share the importance. Drill type practice 98%. The constant practice of grammatical structure is important. For them to enhance their learners' proficiency. And frequent practice of forms and function and structures is important. We have 87%. So as Liebrandt and Spader find out about, we have to balance the two approaches, not to focus on just form or meaning instruction. To find out the best approach for this, when we have to get the student improve in the grammatical competence, we have to strike the balance between the two approaches. So a bit of the summary is that for the initial findings, we do face some of the strength. Over a great majority of the teachers, they seem to use form-focused instructions and meaning-focused instruction in the classroom, because the form focus, if it is detached from the context, is not communicative, and they lack the meaning and the message, and so that students cannot learn better. But some of the divergences, we can find that the teachers' beliefs, especially their teaching experience, about the teachers' educational background and how they learn the language, is important. To affect their instructional behavior. With some of the typical examples, is that one of the teachers want to benefit more about the inductive and systematic approach, and she used a kind of self-discovery approach in the teaching. But as time goes on, she experiences the same problems as another teachers, also lack some of the direct grammar instruction, which makes the student less competent in the will examination in the HKDSE. And some of the inconsistency also defines it, because some of the teachers cannot practice their their teaching beliefs in the classroom because of the constraints, like the heavy workload, some of the discipline problems, and some of the overall planning of whether it is focused on meaning or the more grammar approach. It's also set by the individual schools, because they can't change all the curriculum and the teaching schedule, but they have to focus on some of them will focus more on the communicative, some of them will focus on the grammatical approach. But these constraints are greatly affecting their smooth implementation of grammar teaching. Like some of the school will have lots of teaching hours and lots of the teaching blocks for the teachers to finish, and then they have to fulfill the maximum hours of teaching. And some of the teaching loads and student are both heavy and tight, and most of the teachers practice their own grammar lessons, some of them in the professional way, but a number of teachers that would they would just slowly resort to the form-focused instructions, and to supplement by the meaning focus, so that they have to prepare the lesson materials well. For the teaching implications, the qualitative data collected from 123 ESL teachers is that they provide the teachers with more informative and detailed descriptions of what the teachers are thinking about in their minds, and whether they can practice in their lesson. And when these teacher they choose different approaches in the grammar teaching, and some of the findings can be a future reference to inform the teaching perceptions and the practice in the NSS classrooms in over the territory in Hong Kong. We have some of the limitation, like the study just restricted to a group of about over 100 the ESL teachers and 6 focus groups teachers. Some of the instructional contexts are not universal to reflect the true picture of what the current practice of the grammar teachings held by most or all of the teachers' beliefs and how they practice it in the classroom. And this study only conducted analysis and observation of teachers' instructional beliefs and practices of 6 ESL teachers, and with a survey of over 100 ESL teachers with questionnaires. And the results may not be generalizable, to explain all the ESL teachers' beliefs and practices. So we have to make use of further studies to the other aspects of the English lesson, for example, in different subjects, to see whether they carry out, they have the elements of grammar in being the instructional or pedagogical strategies. Well, here are some of the selected references, like what the Education Bureau, they have the guideline, the curriculum and assessment, and some of the research design textbooks and references, and some of the references about how languages are learned. So here's all about my presentation, and thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, just email me, and I will give you the email later. Thank you.